I was wondering how to introduce what's coming next, and in the end, I figured, let's just show it. No big promises, no fancy build-up, just here it is. So, get ready for something that might be pretty cool, or maybe just completely odd. That's for you to decide. And afterwards you can tell me, should we add this to Avastar, or quietly throw it into the dustbin of forgotten ideas? All right then, here we go. Let's delve a bit deeper into this animation. If you glance at the timeline, you'll notice we've got 3 objects in play: the Avastar armature, a camera, and an empty. But our main focus today is the armature. So, let's unfold its action, shall we? Now, at first glance, there doesn't seem to be much happening. You've got a few keyframes, mainly for finger kerning, but no pose bones listed in the channel editor. To reveal the animation channels, Blender offers a few options. You can select the bones you want to see, which is probably the most common approach. Or you can show channels for all visible bones, which is a bit more inclusive. And if you're feeling particularly adventurous, you can ask Blender to show all channels, even for hidden items. But as you might soon realize, the channel list can quickly become overcrowded. So to keep things manageable, let's revert to the initial setting, showing only selected bones. And when you know precisely which bones you want to focus on, selecting them directly is a wonderfully efficient approach. No complaints there. Oh, and here's a little something to make your life easier. Avastar 4 introduces a new feature that allows you to select entire bone groups with just a single click. Extremely handy when dealing with complex rigs. So, on the one hand, working with Blender's animation editor can be very straightforward, at least if you know exactly what you want to do. But on the other hand, things can get tricky rather quickly, especially when you're trying to track down some mysterious animation behavior. Maybe a bone got keyed accidentally, or maybe you've simply lost track of a few details along the way. It happens to all of us. And that's when you often find yourself jumping back and forth between the animation editor and the 3D view. Selecting different parts of the armature here, refining something over there. It turns into a bit of a dance, really, a constant back and forth, just to keep the animation process under control. And this is where I stepped in and built a little convenience tool, the Avastar channel selector. Now you know me. When I say simple, I'm really hoping for easy to use. Under the hood, though, this thing is quite a little beast, really. But the goal remains clear. Make it easy to help you cut through the clutter and bring just the channels you care about into focus. All right, so let's have a look. You'll find the tool nestled in the end panel of the animation editor. That's the side panel on the right-hand side of the window. And of course, I've placed it in the vertical Avastar tab, right where you'd expect it to be, really. Now, down in the lower section of that panel, you'll see a list of all animated objects in the scene. As we've already seen, that includes the camera, the empty, and of course, the armature, which is currently selected. But, just for the sake of demonstration, let's add a little twist. We'll hide all the animated objects for a moment so that we can bring them back in one by one as needed while we work. Then we'll click the Sync with 3D Viewport button. That tells the tool to remember the current visibility state of these objects. To be clear, this little trick isn't strictly necessary, but it's good to know it's there. Use it, ignore it, whatever fits your workflow best. Up to this point, nothing has actually changed. You can still use the Dopesheet exactly as you normally would. The tool itself is quietly sitting there, doing absolutely nothing, just waiting. Let's change that now. We'll enable the scrubbing option. And what's that, you might ask? Well, the hover tip gives us a clue. automatically update key visibility. All right then, let's scrub the timeline and see what happens. And there it is. Each time the timeline indicator passes over a keyframe, the full set of keyed bones pops into view, instantly. Visible both as animation channels in the timeline and as selected bones right there in the 3D viewport. Personally, I think that's rather neat. But then again, do let me know if I've just reinvented the wheel here. It wouldn't be the first time. I do seem to have a bit of a habit of doing exactly that. Now, if you were paying close attention, you may have noticed I wasn't being entirely truthful earlier. At the moment, we're not actually seeing all keyed bones, only those we've chosen to display in the 3D view. And that's by design. In this mode, you can focus on just a subset of your pose bones, watch what they're doing, without the rest cluttering the scene. But there's more here, waiting just beneath the surface. Let's jump to a particularly crowded frame on the timeline. Oh wait, here is yet another new convenience tool that we added just today. The Ava Zoom helps to stay focused. Let's get back to our crowded frame and check what happens when I zoom in. The currently selected frame gets automatically centered in the timeline, and then zooming in and out no longer shifts the current frame out of sight, and we can hit the frame of our interest much easier. Neat, isn't it? Then let's now open Pandora's box. I mean the armature details section. Straight away, we're shown something quite useful. This frame contains 26 keyed bones. And here's the real treat. We've got one more subpanel, listing exactly which bones are keyed at this point in time. So now we have a proper, transparent overview of what's going on in that frame. Now, you might be wondering, what's the benefit here? After all, we already have a list of keyed bones in the channel editor on the left. Well, the key difference is, here, you decide which bones you want to focus on. Let's take a closer look. Some bones in the list are grayed out. These are currently not visible in the 3D viewport. Then, we've got others marked with bright green indicators. Those are the bones that are currently shown in the channel editor. Here's where it gets interesting. You can toggle those markers to enable or disable individual bones for editing directly in the channel editor. No need to dig through the usual interface. But what about the grayed out ones? Easy. You can either select the appropriate bone collections manually, right from the Avastar rig display panel, or let Avastar handle it. Just click the focus button and voila, all keyed bones are now visible in the 3D viewport and available for selection in the list. And if you want to go all in, there's a handy Select, Deselect All Keyed Bones button right there as well. But we're not quite at the end just yet. Within the list widget, there's also a filter, rather handy for narrowing things down. For instance, you might only want to focus on the wrist bones. Now, just a heads up, there's a small quirk here. The filtered list currently only applies to the list widget itself. So if you want to reflect those filtered bones in the channel editor, you'll need to give the Select Unselect button a little nudge. Maybe once, maybe twice. Yes, I know, a tiny bit of polish still missing. Count this as one of those little to-do items. Nobody's perfect, right? Well, there's still a little more to uncover. For convenience, I've integrated parts of the rig display panel directly into the channel selector panel. This way, everything you need is in one place. No need to hop back into the 3D viewport just to select bone collections. Now, let's return to the animation and watch it play. For this demo, let's say we're only interested in the torso bones. And at first glance, everything seems fairly standard. Nothing unusual happening until we toggle the animation button. Now you'll notice the keyed bones begin to flash when they're activated. A bit of visual feedback as the animation plays. Admittedly, this might not be the most practical feature in the toolbox, but I must say, it does look rather neat, doesn't it? So, what do you think? Is this a tool worth keeping in Avastar? If it sparks even a hint of interest, I'll include it in the next Avastar 4 update, so you can give it a proper spin on your own and let me know where it shines, or where it needs a bit more love. As always, your feedback is not only welcome, it's vital. And hey, if the verdict is to toss this tool entirely, that's perfectly fine too. At least then I'll know it's time to let it go and turn to other things. In any case, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Until then, keep animating, and I'll see you next time.